So here's a look at our temporary kitchen area. So what we have is our cooktop right here. This is just a small little cooktop, but we have an old microwave enclosure just to keep the splatter down from getting on the china cabinet and the table. So condiment area, water supply, refrigerator, microwave, coffee machine, toaster, more water, garbage, watering can, compost bucket. Here's our wood stove. There's a command post for Jane. That's her chair. Here's our couch area, china cabinet. We have our recycling and our that bucket is what we put our dirty dishes in. And we gotta take them downstairs to wash them. Potatoes and onions and stuff. Here's our storage for our utensils and cups and bowls and whatnot in here. And we have a nice long table to put stuff when we bring on the groceries or anything else. And this is our dish cleaning area. So we have a utility sink and a dish rack and overhead LED light. So we have all the necessities to at least do our cleanups. And we have buckets down here, so if we have anything that gets stuck in the strainer, we can just pull out that little strainer sifter thingy there and dump that into the bucket. So this works pretty good. It was a little bit tedious when there was construction up top because a lot of dust and sawdust and plaster dust and bits and stuff would rain down. So I had this covered up with a little plastic tent. So now that the flooring and the tiles down, the things that are going to work their way down through and fall on the dishes is minimal at this point. So this has worked very well for us, and I'm glad that we put this in. It's not handy because it is in the cellar, but we do have a place to clean dishes. Now let's jump in here. I laid out on the floor on this RAM board how it's going to look. So the toilet flange is existing, so it's right there. Typically they're 15 inches off the wall. This one's 18 1/4. So we got a little extra room on the to the left. The 15 inches is a standard clearance to code that you need to have room for the toilet. So a vanity, I marked out the vanity, the different dimensions. So we're thinking a 22 inch by 36 maximum. And that'll miss the arc of the door as the door swings. We also have to keep in mind if we put a cabinet in the back here, so if we go with a 12-inch cabinet, the door potentially could open this far, which would give us that much room to walk through, which seems reasonable. But if we wanted to go with a bigger, deeper cabinet, now we're really closing up our walk-through space. So another option is to go with a shorter vanity. So I marked out the different dimensions for a shorter vanity and where they would end up. So this way we have kind of like a mock-up on how things will look. I think the difference between a 30-inch and a 36 is negligible as far as the door sweep. We're only gaining maybe 6-7 inches of pass-through space, but bigger is better. So I'm thinking the smaller vanity will be the better way to go to give us the most amount of room to come through the door and give us the most amount of leeway on a storage cabinet. Also put the hardy board seat in the shower just to show what that's going to look like. That's a piece of foam block that goes in there and then it gets tiled over. And then over here is the niche where we'd have the soap and the shampoo and whatnot. So it's kind of a little bit of a mock-up. So if I stand in the shower and turn around, here's the overall look of how things will be placed. So the toilet will be on that thing that looks like a circle. That's the toilet flange. There's the vanity. I got the arc of the door as it swings open. I laid out different widths for cabinets if we wanted a storage cabinet in there. We used to have a 12-inch shelf there, which would be this line here. So that's what we had existing, and we seem to live with it quite well. So at the minimum, a 12-inch would be what we would go with. That seemed to store everything adequately. The towels hung off it a little bit, so we might want to go with a 20. I mean, a 14. But things to consider. We just want to get our vanity chosen so we can figure out where the placement of the outlets will go, to the left or the right of it, and an outlet for a mirror in the middle. So mocking it up gives us a better idea of what the space is going to look like when other things come into it. So mocking up things on the floor is much better than an actual drawing. Here's a drawing I put together. I didn't have a CAD program, so what I did was I used Excel spreadsheet, and I made each cell a square, and I kind of set it up as graph paper as best I could. So the scale is going to be a little bit off. It's not going to be perfect. But what I came up with was a similar setup, but I pushed it out all the way to a 40, which looked like it would clear, and it's barely going to clear at 36. So obviously something on my drawing is out of scale. So it's good to, even though you have a drawing, is to put some layout lines or some tape on a floor if you're ever going to try to do a mock-up of how a room is going to be and what you want to place in it. Because this drawing is not accurate, but it gave us kind of a good idea of, you know, how we wanted to approach the issue of positioning a vanity and the clearances for the door and whatnot. So that's just done on Microsoft Excel. Just my method of figuring out some way to get some kind of idea of how things are going to be placed. Plus we recorded the actuals of the room, so even though the drawing's out of scale, we do have the actual dimensions that are present in that room. They may not be to scale, but they are accurate as far as the lengths and the widths. Here's another area you haven't seen yet. These are the wires that come out of the heated floor, and they're going to be hooked up to thermostats. So there'll be a thermostat in here in the bathroom, and there'll also be one in the kitchen. So that's why there's two sets of wires here. So when they come to do the finished work on the electrical, they'll connect up the thermostats, and those will be good to go. So that's what all that bunch of wires is right there. So the power supply for them is down there. Those loops of wire down there is the power supply for the heated floor. So that's what that's all about. I added a cardboard shield around all this wiring that goes to the electric floor. There's a lot of loose wires, and we have some little kids coming by to visit, and I just want to provide no temptation to yank on wires and pull them out, because that's the probe and the thermostat wire and the power supply for the heated floor, and we don't need that to be compromised. Another project we have to think about is replacing this exhaust fan. This is a 60 cubic feet per minute fan, and it goes out of a 4-inch duct. So that's fairly low volume for a shower, but we ordered one from Amazon and it came today. Here's the delivery Amazon made. This is the Panasonic Whisper Quiet High Velocity Exhaust Fan. And this has 110, 130, or 150 cubic feet per minute exhaust capability. We can adjust that as we need it to. And rather than having a 4-inch ducting, we have a 6-inch duct. So this is really going to pump the wet, steamy air out of the bathroom. So that's going in pretty darn soon. We got to get that put in the ceiling so we can hook up a new duct and get the ceiling closed out. I did get a flange for the toilet. This is a brass toilet flange. We do have a lead bend, so the most appropriate method of connecting this would be to solder it, which might be a little bit tedious. I did some DIY looking around and Google. There's a plumber in Manhattan who has a very extensive series of videos on how to solder a lead bend to a brass toilet flange. He says it's not for the do-it-yourselfer. He's done it many years and he's got his technique down. So he also had a video on how to use PVC accessories to accomplish the same thing. So that might be a better way to go with less hassle and less flame and solder and burning and smoke and all that. So I'm going to explore that avenue and get that toilet flange replaced that we have to reconnect upstairs. So here's one of the side hustles we've been working on Saturday and this morning, Sunday. We raked all the leaves out of here to get all the perennials up and out of the leaves. Mostly tulips and daffodils and all kinds of other things. Irises, freckle-faced toad lilies, all kinds of things. So we raked all the leaves out and we put some compost, some cow manure, and got this all set for springtime. We also worked on the other one over here. Only got this one partially done. We trimmed the hydrangea, got all the dead wood out of it. Started putting some compost and cow manure in here, but we ran out. We put down a total of 11 bags, so we ran out of that. We'll get some more and we'll finish off the rest of it. But it's looking pretty good. The garden is starting to thrive. Here's a look at the other things that are already up and growing.